Rodgers and the Packers restructured his contract in July to make the 2022 season the last year on his deal, also in such a way that it would help to facilitate a trade out of Green Bay after the season, if that's what Rodgers wants. So should Aaron Rodgers want to return to Green Bay after the season? Stephen A. Smith.
I've gone back and forth on this on several occasions, Swagoo. I'm of the mindset, yeah. And I've been very, very strong about the hell with Brian Gutekunst. You disrespected him, you dismissed him. There's certain things that there's no coming back from. But then Aaron Rodgers deliberately deceived everybody. Now, what would that have to do with what my position is? That has absolutely nothing to do with his relationship with Brian Gutekunst, right? But it does have everything to do with the perception of truth that we once attached to everything Aaron Rodgers was saying.
Fair.
Before, every word he said, I'm like, yeah, you Aaron freaking Rodgers. What the hell you mean? You know, shut up and play football. We got this. Dismissing him, not asking him for his input, not making sure that he was okay when you got rid of the quarterback coach or you got rid of a receiver or a couple of other veterans that he felt were extremely pivotal to the success of the team because of their influence in that locker room. We went on Aaron Rodgers' word and took what he said to us as gospel. And then when he started off the season after he came to training camp and gave that dissertation breaking down what his issues were with the franchise, his value in our eyes in terms of the substantive comments that he made went through the roof because we never heard anybody provide that much detail as to what a situation entailing themselves involved. But then when you saw how he was deliberately deceitful with his quote-unquote being immunized as opposed to being vaccinated and stuff like that, and you take into account how it was so unnecessary because unlike Kyrie Irving, and for all my critiques about Kyrie Irving, let's be clear, the man should be allowed to play at the Barclays Center. If visitors could come into New York for the NBA and play at the Barclays Center, even though they're not vaccinated, Kyrie Irving should be allowed to play at the Barclays Center. So I don't understand that mandate in New York City at all where visitors can show up and play, but he can't. But getting back to Aaron Rodgers, this ain't the NBA. This is not that situation. In the NFL, there are plenty of players who are unvaccinated that are still playing football on Sundays. He didn't have to lie. And so when you choose to lie anyway, just to convenience yourself, all of a sudden, that changes things. And that makes you look at Brian Gutekunst and go like this. Maybe he was so wrong. Maybe he was telling the truth about a few things. And maybe that's why Aaron Rodgers says they discuss things now. They're communicating now. The relationship is better now. Clearly, you don't have an issue with Matt LaFleur and his staff. You certainly don't have an issue with your teammates who you love and respect and believe in. All those things taken into consideration, I would say that amounts to him needing, or he should have, a willingness to be more receptive to staying.
I understand where you're coming from, and when you get that select group of people that talked about Aaron Rodgers with this situation in Green Bay, I thought he wanted out. That's where I stood. But all the other stuff, man, I was like, I'm not getting on that roller coaster. But here's the deal right now. No, I do not believe he's going to be in Green Bay. They've already facilitated, like Molly brought us in on this discussion, a way to get out of this situation at the end of the season. And whether he wins a Super Bowl, may have to revisit. My mind may be different, but it almost like a Super Bowl would tell me he may want to get out and go somewhere else anyway after getting that accomplished. But if they don't,
Swagger, just to keep you on the question, because of what he negotiated with his contract, he probably would be gone. We're asking you, should he want to return?
Yeah, that's what I said. Nah,
right.
No, he shouldn't. Because here's the deal. We heard all of the complaints, to your point, this offseason about what Green Bay is. And obviously, I said it before the season, S.A., winning is going to mask this. It's going to make everybody forget about all of the stuff that transpired in the offseason, all of the things that was said, the visceral interview that he did leading into the season, because right now we focused on football. And guess what Green Bay is doing like everybody thought they would with him at quarterback? Winning games. When we get to the offseason, therein lies the issue. Let me remind you This is the same Aaron Rodgers that played in the NFC Championship last year and said it wasn't enough in order for him to come back. Like, what? So if it's not about winning, what is it about? Because you have been already winning in Green Bay. You missed going to the Super Bowl 3 times in this same organization. And none of that changed your mind about what you were willing to do and stay away from this particular offseason. So I think Super Bowl win, or if they don't, he does not return. I don't think he wants to return. I think he made that clear last year. I think the business side of it and the willingness of Green Bay to kind of lower themselves in order to make it convenient for him to return, i.e. going out and getting Randall Cobb because that was at his request. All of that is fine and great. But this franchise and organization, like I said before all of this started, I don't look at this as they've done a bad job. Now, obviously, Aaron Rodgers has a lot to do with their positioning and where they've been, but you still don't get the NFC championships if you didn't do a good job putting the roster together. That's what it really boils down to. So, no, I don't think he wants to return. I didn't think he wanted to return this offseason.
1 second. I want to go back to something you said, Stephen A., because you've been team president of the Aaron Rodgers, the Bad Man fan club. And this is a big change of heart for you, a big departure on where you were on this. So was the impetus for change where now you think he should stay and you're slightly more on the side of Green Bay, those immunized comments?
Well, I think that what happens, what I'm trying to say is that because he has shown a willingness to be so deceitful, it's got me wondering about how honest he was about Gutekunst. Combine that with the fact that he says he's now communicating with Gutekunst. See, that's the difference here. Swagoo, you're absolutely right. He won before. He came within a game of the Super Bowl 3 separate times that he didn't pull that off. So that's not new. Having teammates that he believed could get it done and having good relationships with them, that's not new. Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming, sports, and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.